There's so many interesting things to say about Snatcher. Snatcher has so much history going on, things that it's influenced and things it was influenced by. It was one of those few cyberpunk things that had a really strong sense of style and strong visuals that really defined an era of cyberpunk. It pulls its influences from primarily from Blade Runner, Terminator, and William Gibson's novels, the Sprawl trilogy. Um, there are probably various other things that it was influenced by, and it really just speaks to, in general, the 80s generation of science and technology and um, where fiction showed we were going in the world with humanoid robots and these crazy interfaces on computers and other insane types of technology that we can't possibly imagine even today, and huge sprawling cityscapes with dingy, grungy urban areas. It was just, again, a really unique style for the time that developed out of the 80s, and it's something that Snatcher heavily emulates. Snatcher pulls so much from some of these sources, especially Blade Runner, that it literally copies things. The Neokobe cityscape in the very beginning of the game is so reminiscent of Blade Runner. I mean, you have the flying cars, you have the explosions over the buildings, you have the blimp going around overhead, you have the pyramid in the background. And there's various other shots in that opening credit sequence that are taken practically straight from Blade Runner, just turned into pixel art. Very colorful pixel art. In fact, I even say in the very beginning of the playthrough that it's just a more colorful Blade Runner. um, Snatcher is such an important game historically because it's part of a generation of science fiction that depicts the world as this dirty, grungy place that we have become in the future. And it's able to expand on these ideas more than its quote unquote source material, the things it was influenced by. And so, for people who enjoy this type of science fiction, Snatcher is just perfect, really. It is. It has everything that people who love cyberpunk want to see in cyberpunk media. It has the cityscapes, it has the 80s themes, the body modifications, the hackers, the robots. It has all that stuff, and it's also a great piece for Konami because it's sort of not too self-absorbed, though almost, in its references to Konami and to Kojima's other works, or at least Metal Gear, um, with the naming of the one character in Snatcher being Metal Gear, and just having general themes that are kind of in the direction of Metal Gear, and so it's interesting from that respect that Snatcher is kind of the sophomore game for Kojima, where he's sort of branching away from Metal Gear and he's going into this new area and doing an incredible job with it. And the whole team, of course, not just Kojima, but um, the American localization team did a fantastic job as well for the Sega CD version. And Snatcher is just one of those games that even if you've never played it, you've heard of it, and it pops up in just about every conversation when talking about games from the early 90s, late 80s, and talking about cyberpunk games, games with cyberpunk themes. Snatcher is just one of those games that always pops up, and it's a really important game in the history of video games as a whole.